Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
Everyone stay calm. We are taking over the ship. I am us!
This ship cannot be crewed by two men. You'll never make it out of the bay.
Son, I'm Captain Jack Sparrow. Savvy?
What's up, Pint listeners? Depptember week number 3. My name is John.
Yeah, my name is Lloyd.
And we're back to talk more Johnny Depp. 2 weeks in a row. Hey, I gotta give a big shout out to my boy Stu, who last week filled in for me with the Manster, and it was a treat. It was a little. No, truly, it was a good episode. It was a little, what's the word, bittersweet, because it's the first Pint episode I've never been on. But the sweet part was, it was the first Pint episode that I've ever edited without having heard, and you guys were really good together. I really enjoyed it. I haven't watched What's Eating Gilbert Grape yet, but I want to watch it to kind of, I feel like a listener now. I want to watch it to kind of like, hear what you guys were talking about and matching up to that. But very good episode, Stu. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying so.
Hold on. I think you shut your mic off or something happened to your mic.
My mic just disappeared. Am I there?
Yeah, you're there. Okay.
All right. Thank you for saying so. Yeah, it was a little daunting. I have to be honest. Going in, I was like, I don't know how this is going to fly. I haven't done one without John ever. But it was fun, and Stu was right there, and I think we kept it going pretty well.
I enjoyed it. I really did. I'm not just saying that.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it to be a train wreck because I know both of you guys can handle it, but you guys did really well. You did really well. There was a point where you kind of said, like, I'm not used to, like, guiding the show or guiding the talk through the movie, and you guys were, like, 50 minutes in and you were like a quarter of the way into the movie. I'm just kidding. It wasn't that far off, but you even said, you're like, we're not even close to done talking about this. Let's speed it up. But I do the same thing sometimes. So I think it's funny.
It's funny. I meant to actually put that in the show. And like, I saw your comment on Patreon. I think that's where it was. What is Eating Gilbert Grape? I meant to make that part of a show. Like, Stu, what's Eating Gilbert Grape? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be like maybe just like, what are the difficulties in his life? What are his challenges? But it certainly is a weird title.
Yeah. Well, I know for sure Betty Carver was eating Gilbert Grape.
I do recall from you guys talking about that he was tapping into Mary Steenburgen. So yeah. So Nick of Time, you guys talked about What's Eating Gilbert Grape. Those two movies are more or less like subdued Johnny Depp performances, right? Like Nick of Time, he's just this certified public accountant father. What's Eating Gilbert Grape, he's this angst-ridden, early 20s, mid-20s guy. And now for the last 2 weeks of Depptember, we're going to get into like weirdo Johnny Depp stuff. And we're going to start by talking about, and let's just get right into it, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl.
Let's rock!
Caribbean, not Caribbean.
Yeah, I don't know.
Caribbean.
Like Billy Ocean says Caribbean. It's
he made that up.
Yeah, Caribbean Queen. But, if you think about it the other way, Caribbean Queen, it doesn't work.
Don't work.
But he makes it work. So yeah, this is essentially the role that kind of completely reinvented Johnny Depp into like a major star. This is, if you want to like kind of put it in context, this is the Robert Downey Jr. Tony Stark thing, where Johnny Depp was considered box office poison at this point. Did you read any of the stuff about how like nobody wanted to hire him for this? They looked at different. Robert De Niro was offered the role, and
I heard a lot of other names. Yeah,
he said no because he said pirate movies are box office poison. The last big pirate movie was Cutthroat Island, which is a notorious box office bomb. It destroyed a company. Pirate movies were big in the 20s and the 30s and, then, but really you haven't seen a lot of them. And this movie...
That's because the viewing audience smartened up.
You think so? You don't think nobody wanted to see pirate stuff anymore?
Movies can suck my ass.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to affect anybody's listening, but the Manster is not a fan of this film, or at least was not. We will discuss it.
Anyway.
The franchise anyway.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. Let's talk about who made this thing, Manster.
Once again, I'm going to give you a bumper sticker for this, 8.5 hour movie. Basically, a blacksmith, Will Turner, teams up with your eccentric Johnny Depp pirate, Jack Sparrow, to save his love, the governor's daughter, from Jack's former pirate allies who just happen to be undead and under a blood curse of some sort.
Funny bit about the curse. So Michael Eisner, the head of Disney, did not want this movie to be made. He actually was complaining because this movie, it ended up costing $140 million, but initially it was $120 million. He kept telling the Disney, the brass, I mean, he's the head guy, but he kept telling the people that were kind of in charge, let's not do this. The year prior, they had made a Country Bears movie that failed. And they're like, we can't do movies based on rides anymore, or at least try this again. It didn't work. So he was dead set against it. He had hired Gore Verbinski, the director who Lloyd will talk about in a minute, to start coming up with, concepts and art and stuff. And on the day he went to tell Verbinski to halt production on this thing, Verbinski had already gotten word that this was happening, but he kept the artists on task. And when Michael Eisner saw all of these, the storyboards and stuff, he said, well, now we have this looks incredible. We have to make this. So this movie was in trouble from the beginning.
Yeah.
And the other part is the film was originally just supposed to be called Pirates of the Caribbean. And Eisner and Disney insisted that they add a subtitle, so that way if they made sequels, they can, have different subtitles. So that's why it's subtitled The Curse of the Black Pearl. Gore Verbinski hated that title because he insisted that it's the gold that's cursed, not the Black Pearl, which is actually true. And he fought above Michael Eisner's head to have the subtitle as small as possible on the posters. And if you look at some of the early posters, it is pretty tiny. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah. Because eventually, we get I don't remember all of the titles, but Dead Men Tell No Tales. They obviously were able to make this into a successful franchise.
Yeah, they were. So right away, I'm just going to say produced by Jerry Bruckheimer, who is a master producer of hit movies. Everything Flashdance, Top Gun, The Rock, Con Air, Armageddon, one of John's favorites, Beverly Hills Cop. Amazing. Directed by, as John said, Gore Verbinski. He is an American film director, screenwriter, producer, and musician. He was in the punk rock scene, the LA punk rock scene, for quite a while. He directed music videos, Bad Religion, Monster Magnet, that kind of stuff. You know what else he did? You know what he's maybe not famous for, but I think most people know this?
The Ring.
The Ring, yep, but I'm talking a little smaller than that. He did Bud Wise.
Oh, the frogs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he did the Budweiser frogs. And like you said, The Ring, Rango.
Yeah, another Johnny Depp film. Yeah,
another Johnny Depp. His last movie was a horror movie I never saw, 2016's A Cure for Wellness.
I've heard of it. I've never seen it.
Yeah, same here. Screenplay by writing partners Ted Elliott and Terry Rossio. They did a lot of stuff together, including Aladdin, Mask of Zorro, the pirate movies, Lone Ranger, a bunch of other stuff. And Terry Rossio also did the 2021 Godzilla vs. Kong film.
Yeah, I think he's writing what the next one I think is called Godzilla Times Kong or something. Yeah, they're
Times Kong.
Yeah, it's Godzilla X Kong. So I mean, in my world, that's multiplication. I don't know.
X Kong. Yeah, and like you said, this movie is based on a ride at Disney. It's great. Filming locations. Film from October. Hey, I'm not giving away my cards. From October 2002 to March 2003. Took place in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. You can add that to some nice drinks, some cocktails. That's a Southern Caribbean nation. Southern Caribbean nation comprising of Main Island, St. Vincent, and a chain of smaller islands. And other than that, it was sets, constructed in Los Angeles. This was the first film released by Disney to be rated PG-13.
Obviously, this is a Disney film. There's actually a scene, and I would not have noticed this had I not read about it while I was doing the research. During the raid on Port Royal in the beginning, when the ghost pirates raid the city, one of the last cannon shot, did you notice that the plume of smoke forms Mickey Mouse's head?
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah, I read it, and then when I saw it, I went, oh yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's there's some murder in here. It's not a lot. It's not, because they kind of keep it low key because the bad guys technically are already dead. But there's in that raid scene, they don't really show a lot, but there's definitely some scenes where they kill innocent bystanders,
Yeah. I mean, there's no real brutal, violence or
no blood or guts, but like there's like one scene where like they show like one of the ghost pirates, like there's a guy on the ground and you just see from the ghost pirate, like a perspective of him, you see him stab into the guy and you hear the guy like, moan and stuff. So that's heavy for a Disney movie.
Yeah. And that one, when the guy got behind him, he was like butt fucking him.
But the famous Pirates of the Caribbean Disney approved butt fucking scene was amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can get that on the deleted scenes.
It's awesome.
Basically, it had low expectations, but it was a huge box office success. And we will get into that later. And it received a lot of positive reviews. Critics liked it. Audiences liked it. Everyone liked it. I'll give you the other sequels. You mentioned those. So you had Dead Man's Chest in 2006, At World's End, 2007, On Stranger Tides, 2011, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, Dead Man Tell No Tales in 2017. And then there's another one upcoming, sixth film.
Yeah, I heard that. I don't think it's in production yet, but there was the whole thing where Disney didn't want to work with Johnny Depp because of the whole, is he a wife beater thing? And then after he had kind of won his case, Disney was like, we'll work with Johnny Depp again.
Yeah, because that's how they roll.
Look, let's be honest. He smacked her around a bit, but she took a shit in the bed. She probably deserved it. That's what Disney execs are saying.
You know what? I know Stu had alluded to it, but I've never watched a single second of any of that stuff.
Oh, I didn't either. No, I only knew of the like the hits, like she pooped in the bed, like he basically admitted to doing drugs like all the time with everybody. The one that I do remember in particular, it was a meme that was like on Instagram and TikTok that like she was telling a story and she says something about her dog stepped on a bee and then she makes this weird face. You got to look it up. My dog stepped on a bee, and then she goes like, she does this really weird face, and for a little while, it became a huge fucking thing. And I
remember that.
Yeah, I think me and my wife watched like one whole like 20-minute video of people imitating it, and I was laughing my fucking ass off.
Nice.
All right, so is that it for production?
Yeah, that's it. Who do we have in the cast?
Shabuya roll call.
All right, so this wouldn't be Depptember without Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp plays Captain Jack Sparrow. Very popular role for him. He plays him very weird. He says that he figured pirates were the rock stars of their time, and he based this performance heavily on Keith Richards, who, spoiler alert, in the third movie they get to play his dad, so that was kind of a nice little like bit of going back and casting to his idea. The Disney execs were furious with his performance and wanted to fire him every day. Michael Eisenberg was screaming things out like, is he supposed to be gay?
Is he drunk? Is he gay?
Is he drunk? Is he gay? What the fuck's happening? I think at one point they said Eisenberg, Michael Eisner, I'm sorry, said something like, he's ruining our fucking movie.
Yeah. No, he saved it.
Now he
saved that fucking movie.
He certainly saved. I mean, we'll get to it, but he certainly is a memorable part of this film.
I guess he did his own gold cap teeth as well.
He pissed them off with that too. He capped all of his teeth gold, and they were okay with a couple. They said his hands are dirty and he's dirty and he's wearing eyeliner, and they're like, "What the fuck is he doing?" He's making you. Spoiler alert for box office: $655 million is what he's doing. We'll get to that later, but Johnny Depp. If you want to go to some of his earlier roles, Platoon, 21 Jump Street, not mentioned as much, but easily as good of a performance in this is Jeffrey Rush as Captain Barbossa. You might know him from Mystery Men and Munich, and Captain Barbossa is the villain of the film. He is the former first mate of Jack Sparrow, who mutinized that motherfucker, left him for dead, and then in his actions as a pirate ends up becoming cursed and undead. He's obsessed with apples, because he's a ghost. Technically, he can't eat, and he just wants to eat an apple.
Is that what that's all about?
Yeah. Yeah, he wants an apple really badly. And he has a line in this film that I can only really paraphrase, but I always remember it. It's when him and her are on the boat, and she says she doesn't believe in ghost stories, and he goes through the whole story of what happened to them. He gets in the moonlight and turns into the ghost, and he says, "You better start believing in ghost stories, because you're in one."
You're in one. I like that. I like the way he played that role. I guess from what I've read, he felt he was playing the unsung hero of the movie and developed his own intricate backstory, so he could be more convincing in that role.
He was great in it. He was really great in it. Will Turner, the blacksmith turned pirate, is played by Orlando Bloom. I like Orlando Bloom, but unfortunately, he was a leading man that just never happened in the real world. You probably know him from Troy and Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Mm-hmm. That gorgeous elf.
Legolas, what do your elfin eyes see? Apparently, if you watch all 3 Lord of the Rings movies, Legolas never directly speaks to Frodo. In all 3 movies, they never have a conversation. There's never a word uttered between the two of them, except for in the Fellowship of the Ring, when everybody is teaming up, and he says, whatever he says, you can have my bow, or I give you my bow, when they're all pitching in.
Interesting.
That's the only dialogue between the two of them in all 3 of those movies. Keira Knightley plays Elizabeth Swann. She was in Everest, and she played one of the Queen's handmaidens in episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Elizabeth Swann, let me ask you a question, Lloyd. There's a saying out there. I don't get into this stuff too much, but there's a saying, or a thing in pop culture called a Mary Sue. And the idea of a Mary Sue is a female character that essentially can do anything and is almost, she's just so completely well-rounded, it's almost fake. Do you feel that way about Elizabeth Swann? It just seems like she almost could be the damsel in distress, but then when they get into, at one particular scene when there's a naval battle, she's the one who's kind of coordinating what's going on, even though she had no
battle experience, no sword. Well, yeah, I've never heard that term, but I will. I definitely have something to say about her.
Okay,
I was going to save until my rating.
All right. Do you want to throw it in now, or you want to hold it off till later?
I guess I could allude to it now. That I think she plays a role in a pirate movie, to me, that should be a lusty, voluptuous person that people are throwing in for. Everybody's throwing in for her, and I don't buy it because she doesn't sell it.
Oh, okay. All right.
Sorry.
Yeah. All right. Interesting. Let's see. Kevin McNally plays Joshua Gibbs, who is a stalwart pirate companion of Jack Sparrow. He was in the Spice Girls film Spice World. Also the best fucking pork chop sideburns maybe ever. Right.
Excellent.
Maybe ever. Wolverine, go fuck yourself. This guy's got it going on. Zoe Saldana, a very young Zoe Saldana.
I didn't realize it was her.
Yeah. Plays Anna Maria, another pirate. She was obviously in Avatar and the Galaxy of the Guardians trilogy. She was 23 years old, and she said she hated making this movie. She said it was just really political. There was a lot of strife on set between actors. This is what she said. She said that it was a terrible experience for her. And I think I'm 90% sure she's only in the first one. And let's round off the cast with Jonathan Pryce. He plays Governor Weatherby Swan. You would know him from Game of Thrones. And he played the president and Zartan pretending to be the president in the G.I. Joe movies. Now, here's something funny. This goes along kind of with Johnny Depp. Brian Cox, the original Hannibal Lecter, was offered the role. He said he didn't want to get stuck in a franchise. And he also said he didn't like Johnny Depp.
I hate Johnny Depp.
He's like, I don't understand like the big deal with Johnny Depp. I don't think he's a good actor and I don't want to be involved in this movie. And he said that in a book he wrote. So I guess he didn't like Johnny Depp. He got called out on it recently and he kind of sort of backtracked his comments. But if you read the article that I read, he kind of backtracks it because I think he realizes he sounded dickish, but he also kind of stands firm and is like, yeah, I didn't want to do that movie. I didn't want to get stuck.
Hey, I'm Hannibal Lecter. I can say whatever I want.
Whatever I want.
Yeah.
Although I will
Johnny
say,
Depp was a big fan of Jonathan Pryce as well.
Yeah, he's the one that pushed to get him in when Brian Cox said no. I do actually have two more for the cast. I wanted to bring these guys up because they're kind of comic relief. And one of them just blew my mind because I've never realized this before. Lee Ehrenberg plays Pintle. Pintle is one of the two pirates that's kind of the comic relief. Lee Ehrenberg as Pintle is the heavyset guy. He was in RoboCop 3. But what I didn't realize is this is the same actor who on Seinfeld plays Mike Moffat, who is the guy that George gets into the fight with over the parking space at the party at Jerry's house. He shows up multiple times in Seinfeld. He gets his hands broken in the trunk. He thinks that that Jerry's trying to kill him. I never realized this is the same actor.
Oh, wow.
And his
say RoboCop 3, is that the one with Stephen Root?
The terrible one. Yeah, okay. Super terrible. Yeah. And then his kind of scene partner in this film, the pirate with the wooden eye, is Mackenzie Crook, who plays Rigetti. And he was in Finding Neverland, another Johnny Depp movie. And he's probably actually best known for The English Office. He played Gareth, who is the Dwight of The English Office.
I love that guy. Yeah. I love The English Office. You know, everybody says it's not as good as American, but I love it. And he was a good character. I
always really liked it a lot too. David Brent in The English Office. So like Michael Scott, even though he's hard to deal with, he's got a really good heart. David Brent's just a fucking idiot. Like he doesn't have like the Michael Scott, like the heart underneath.
Ricky Gervais.
Yeah, Ricky Gervais is really good. Yeah.
I recognize one other guy. I don't know from where though. The guy who played Norrington. The one who was going to marry Elizabeth Swann. Yeah,
I didn't mark him down, and I didn't recognize him. But he's essentially like the Royal Navy lieutenant, captain, commodore as time goes on in this film. And also, I wanted to point out, I didn't write his name down here, but remember when we did Deep Rising?
Yeah.
Do you remember Australian Colin Farrell?
Oh yeah.
He's one of the pirates in this.
He was also in the LA punk rock scene, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, and this was literally right before he died.
He's one of those pirates? Yeah, I never would have picked him out.
Yeah, he's in a few scenes. He doesn't have like a real forward role, but I had read he was in it, and as soon as you see him, again, he doesn't talk as much, but he's got longer hair, but he looks like steroid Colin Farrell.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say I'll go back and check it out, but I won't.
Oh, you're hurting my heart, man. You're hurting my heart. So this movie, I will give it this. It is long. And a lot goes on in the plot. So we're going to walk through it, but we're not going to get crazy with this because it would take a long time. There's a lot of double crosses, a lot of people getting thrown in different jails. So we're just going to kind of give you, let's walk through this. So it starts off on a British naval vessel and Governor Weatherby Swan and his daughter Elizabeth, who is like maybe 7.
I just love that name.
Isn't that a good name?
It reminds me of Archie.
It's Mrs. Weatherby. They're on this ship and they find this young boy floating on basically
he's doing the Titanic thing.
He is. He's floating on a door. He's floating on a door. They rescue him. He's got a medallion of gold around his neck. And the young girl, now she's about the same age as him. We find out this is Will Turner. The young girl sees he's got this medallion and she seems to be kind of like well versed on pirate lore.
Yeah.
She's afraid that he's a pirate, so she steals this medallion and keeps it.
Remind me to come back to that in the end.
Okay.
There's something about him wearing that gold that I have a question about.
Okay. What's super creepy about this scene is that Norrington is a full-grown man. he's the lieutenant of this ship, and he's a full-ass adult, and Elizabeth Swann is easily 7 years old. Now, we forward to the time where Elizabeth is probably in this movie 18 years old.
Yeah.
And now Norrington is, also 10 plus years older. The only difference is now is he wants her bad. Like he's so essentially, bad. He's like, I've been waiting for you to get older so I could pork your little fuckhole. It's just like, it's so creepy because she's a little kid.
Tight butthole.
What a tight little puckered up butthole. I'm going to lick it. I've been waiting.
Oh, God. Oh, we're so mad.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's been waiting her out. But meanwhile, Will Turner, the young boy who they rescued, has also been living in Port Royal in the Caribbean. This is it's like a naval community, I guess you would say. He is a blacksmith, and he works for a drunkard of a master who does none of the work. Will does all of the work. He makes sword after sword
Amazing
after sword.
Swords, yeah.
Yeah. And there's obviously an unrequited, whether or not it's love, there's an unrequited feeling between the two of them. She obviously has a crush on him, and he obviously has feelings for her. As a matter of fact, at one point, right in front of her father, she's like, I had a dream about you. The father's like, whoa.
Good old David Price.
Keep that to yourself, bitch. So that's kind of setting up these characters. They're on this... yeah. Well, it's all right. David, Jonathan, whatever. They're on this naval port. Now, meanwhile, I'm going to say this, whether you agree with me or not, Lloyd, is fine. But Captain Jack Sparrow, in my opinion, has one of the best intros of a character ever. And
100%.
also one of the best last moments. The last scene in this movie is, as the kids would say, a fucking banger. I love it. I love it. He comes in very heroically riding into Port Royal on the top of the mast.
Top of the mast, right? And is it sinking?
Well, you don't see that right away. You see very heroically he's up there and, the score is going. And then as we widen out, he's essentially on like a dinghy. And as he's coming in, it's just sinking.
Yeah.
And he gets right to the jetty or whatever you want to call it, the dock. And just as the boat goes under, he just walks onto the dock.
Fantastic entrance.
It's an incredible entrance.
I think everything he does with this character is fantastic. That's
what I was going to ask you. So again, I'm kind of getting the vibe that you're not a fan still, but we'll get there. But that aside, you dig what he does with this character.
I dig what he does with this character. I dig the first hour of the movie.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So we get into town and Jack Sparrow runs into some trouble. The whole movie is Jack Sparrow running into trouble. He's a pirate who was recently marooned 10 years ago, marooned on an island by Barbossa. Barbossa stole his ship, the Black Pearl, which is a legendary ship, fastest ship out there, blah, 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 the whole 9 yards. He has a gun with one bullet in it. What was the bullet originally meant for, Lloyd?
So the bullet, he was exiled or sent off to an island, right? He's one man, one gun, one bullet. Obviously, that's not enough to survive on if you're going to be killing game and stuff. So the bullet was meant for him.
Kill himself off.
Here, you can have this one bullet, when you can't take it anymore and you're starving and blah, blah, blah.
And the rumors were that he was on the island for like weeks and he tied two turtles together and escaped on them like they were a raft. So he has this kind of lore about him.
It's an amazing story.
He also kind of has I guess what's the word? Level of,
ingenuity?
Ingenuity, but what's the word when someone is like famous, like people know who you are. Notorious. Thank you, sir. It's not just a Duran Duran song.
No.
He's kind of notorious. Like you said, we talked before, he speaks oddly. He seems like he might be drunk, but people know who he is. Norrington gets a hold of him because there's a graduation ceremony for Norrington, a commencement going from being a captain to a commodore. And Elizabeth goes and Norrington wants to fuck her sweet butthole and marry her. So she goes at the request of her father and they put her in
make her butthole legit.
legit. Like we gotta work this butthole into legitimacy. They put her in a corset that almost kills her. she can't breathe. She falls like 6 stories into the water.
Yeah.
And while this happens, the only person that even attempts to save her is Captain Jack Sparrow.
Because he's on the other. What was the name of that boat he was on?
Was that the Dauntless, or
I was just gonna say the HMS Pinafore.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's up there with who'd you just say, Norrington? And I think that's when they're saying, you may be the worst pirate I've ever heard of. He goes, but you have heard of me.
Yeah.
I love the little affectations he gives. It's so good.
He's all-star. He's all-star in this. I don't think, whether you like this movie only, you like the first 3, whatever, I don't think you could say that like Johnny Depp didn't sell it with Captain Jack Sparrow. Yeah. I don't believe you can, at least.
Now, when she falls into the water, and as you were getting to, Johnny Depp sees her, or Jack Sparrow sees her, dives in and saves her. I did not understand what happened. She falls in the water and she's halfway down, and then all of a sudden this little sonic boom happens under the water. And they're like, what's that?
Right. So she's wearing the medallion. Now, let's just get into this now. The crew of the Black Pearl, after they marooned Jack Sparrow, they at one point in their adventures found this treasure chest of 882 pieces of Aztec gold, but the Aztec gold was cursed. So they spent no time at all basically spending it on whores, on buttholes, on clam chowder, whatever pirates eat, and they became cursed. They became half ghost. They're fully ghost, basically. In the moonlight, you could see their real form. That is the last piece they need to recollect. When they recollect all the pieces of the gold, which is crazy to think they spent 882 and were able to get 881. Even I'm going to call bullshit on that.
Yeah.
Like, that'd be like saying, here, Lloyd, here's $882 bills. Go out and find them all now. You are so fucked. You're a ghost for the rest of time.
Yeah, exactly.
But she has been wearing the last piece. The last piece that was on her neck was taken from Will. Will's father, Bootstrap Bill, was a member of the crew, was cursed as well, gave it to Will. So when she hits the water, for whatever magical reasons...
Okay, you just said it.
The last piece of the medallion calls out to them, almost as if it wants to be with the other ones. They never really say much more than that, but it's like this pulse goes through. And from that point... that's when the Black Pearl comes to Port Royal. Captain Jack gets put in the brig, and we have a incredible, I think, nighttime siege scene, where the Black Pearl comes and starts blasting away at the town. And we got in a meeting between Will and Jack earlier, where when Jack was running away from the authorities, he ended up in Will's shop, and we find out in that they have a great sword fight, that Will is a master swordsman. Probably a master coxman as well. Elizabeth will find out sooner or later. Lloyd, what did you think of the scene of the attack on Port Royal?
Oh, I thought this was a fun scene. I liked the prior scene too, when Sparrow and Will have their own little sword fight. I liked up to now. I'm still fully on board with this movie.
Right, I'm curious when the turn's going to happen. I'm curious.
I have it right here in my notes, and we'll get to it.
Okay. All right. So after that happens, the Black Pearl takes Elizabeth hostage or prisoner. And the reason is because, and here's more plot that you'll learn later, but I'll tell you right now. They need the last medallion, which they don't know she has.
Yeah.
But they also need the Bootstrap Bill's blood, which they're assuming is hers because she lies and says that her last name is Turner, because she's got the hots for William Turner.
She immediately invokes Parlay,
which is used to great effect in this movie. Essentially, this is good for your life too. If you're in Somalia, I don't know if those pirates work the same way, but if you get attacked by pirates, just say Parlay. And what that means is that they can't hurt you. They have to bring you to their captain, and you get to discuss matters. And then at that point, they could probably kill you.
Then they'll kill you.
Yeah. But it's going to save your life for a little while. So she invokes Parlay. She gets taken away by the Black Pearl.
I do like the whole thing of the code. Like, she knows the code. And what was that one pirate's name? He's like, I know the code.
Pintle, yeah.
Yeah, Pintle, yeah. I do like that. And they do go to that a few times at a pretty good effect each time.
Yeah, I like that little kind of line of joking there with the code and parlay.
Said it's really more of a guideline.
That I love that, because at the end, and we'll get there, but at the end, when Joshua Gibbs seems to have abandoned Jack Sparrow, and he saves him at the end, he's like, well, what about the code? He's like, it's more of a guideline. I like that joke quite a bit. So Elizabeth gets taken away, and she has kind of her time with the crew of the Black Pearl. Will, who's in love with Elizabeth, wants to save her, and Captain Jack Sparrow just wants his boat back. He wants to get the Black Pearl back. So these two guys work on a plan to steal, I think it's the Interceptor is the name of the ship.
The Interceptor. Yep.
The Interceptor is the fastest ship in the fleet. The Dauntless is the flagship. So they make it seem like they're trying to steal the Dauntless. When all the Navy personnel leave the Interceptor to go to the Dauntless to stop them, they get over to the Interceptor and take it.
And that's what makes Jack Sparrow, I think, a really smart and good captain, besides all his funny little affectations and prancing around and hand gestures, is that he's smart, he's intelligent, he's kind of ingenious, and he can swing around and do stuff and lure people in and then trick them.
He's fully capable. He seems like...
He's the reason he's well known.
Yes, he seems like a joke,
right,
because, again, he seems like maybe he's like on something. But every time that he gets put into a position where they have to do, like, at the end when he steals the coin, he knows what he's doing. He knows what stealing the coin will cause, and that's how they kind of win at the end. We'll get to that in a few minutes. But so here's a question, Lloyd. Do you think, I'm assuming it must be real, that if me and you put a canoe over our head and walked into the ocean and walked across the bottom of the ocean, would there be an air bubble for us to survive in?
You could absolutely have an air bubble if you turn a boat upside down and pull it underwater like that, straight down. You can do that with a glass in a sink.
Yeah.
Just take a glass, put it upside down. You can do that. However, the buoyancy is going to want to pull you up. You're not walking across the bottom of the ocean floor like that.
So look, I'm not a scientist. I move to you.
I'm filling in for,
Professor Joe. Yeah, I'm not a scientist, but that's what I thought. I thought I can buy the air bubble because, like you said, it really doesn't take a lot of thought. But I was thinking, as they're walking across the bottom, isn't that fucking boat like trying to like explode out of their hands? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So they steal the Interceptor, and now they have to go two places. The first place they have to go is the island of Tortuga. This is where they're going to assemble a crew. If you don't know what Tortuga is, it's Mos Eisley with more fist fights. Okay. So they go to Tortuga, they assemble their crew. They get Joshua Gibbs, they get Anna Maria, they get Marty, the little person, they get the guy with no tongue that the parrot speaks for. I like this crew.
Right. Yeah, it's a good crew.
Now they have to go to Isla de la Muerta, which is where Barbossa's crew hangs out, and it is just fucking jam-packed with fucking trinkets and treasure.
Well, that chest that they had with the medallions in it,
yeah,
that's a big chest.
Yeah, 882.
Overflowing. All right. I can guarantee you right now, a chest that big, 882 medallions, is going to be maybe 2 layers.
Yeah.
Not going to be that high.
Well, anyway. Maybe they had like,
maybe there's other stuff under it.
There's like a gold toilet in there or something.
Yeah, that's right.
We keep the gold toilet in there too. We just pull it out and shit in it once in a while. Ghost shits.
That golden shit.
Ghost shits can be a real motherfucker. So they're hanging there, and Elizabeth thinks they're going to sacrifice her. The idea is we put the last piece of the coinage in there. We're going to slit her throat, and we're going to all be brought back to life and not be ghosts. So I like this joke as well. They take the last piece of coin, and then all they do is cut her hand. And like just a little bit of blood, and she's like, that's it? And they're like, waste not, want not. Like, there's no reason to kill you. Although if you really think about it, they probably have much worse in store for her once they become people again.
Yeah, exactly.
But nothing happens, and they kind of freak out. And they figure out the reason nothing happens is because that she's not who she says she is.
A bootstrap Bill's daughter.
She's not. William is. Will and Captain Jack show up, and, we have some more shenanigans. William gets Elizabeth out of there, but Jack gets captured by Barbossa. So this is one of the many people getting captured and moved around that we were kind of talking about. Will brings Elizabeth back to the interceptor, and they're going to try. What the hell are they doing? They're trying to catch up to the Black Pearl, I think, right? To catch Barbossa. Jack Sparrow is in another brig. This is the second brig he's in. Manster, we're still in the first hour. The Pearl.
I'm still where we're getting very close.
What do you think, Manster? Now, again, I understand this is not Master and Commander. This is a pirate movie. But like, as I watched this last night, how fucking nuts. Look, let's go to the Civil War. Civil War warfare was absolutely crazy. You shoot at each other, you take forever to reload, and when you're just close enough, you just run into each other with bayonets.
That's right.
This time period, naval warfare, you just park next to each other and blow all your cannons into each other until you just decide that we're going to go over onto the other ship.
Right.
How nuts is this?
That's pretty nuts. It was a really cool maneuver.
The anchor?
Definitely have to give it that. I liked it. I liked that maneuver and the blowing, but the cannons. But yeah, both ships are probably going to go down.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty nuts. But yeah, then you get a battle between the Pearl and the Interceptor. They're not dying, right? They can't die.
The people on the Pearl can't die. They're ghosts. Right. Yeah.
And then I forget what happens. Will just realizes that it's him that they want, right? So he surrenders himself.
He surrenders, yeah, and goes over to the Pearl.
Yeah.
I think he goes to the Pearl at this point. Great battle scene, I'll give it that. The guys and gals in the Pearl don't have like cannonballs, or I'm sorry, on the Interceptor don't have a lot of ammunition, so they're using like forks. Was it them or was it the guys in the Pearl using the forks? No, it's the Interceptors using forks and knives and all that shit because they're just blowing everything, ballast out of the cannons.
Yeah.
Because one of the Rigetti guy gets a fork into his wooden eye, which was a cool little move there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
All right. I'm trying to think now.
And now you are at the place where the movie loses me.
Okay. All right.
Because this is where I guess Barbossa takes Will, but doesn't he maroon Jack and Elizabeth?
Maroons Jack and Elizabeth again on the same island that Jack was marooned on the first time.
Right. And does he gives him the one bullet, right?
He throws the gun in the water and Jack dives in for it.
That's what it is. Yeah, yeah.
And Elizabeth and Jack get to the island and she basically says, well, how did you get off last time? Like, what was the real story? And he's like, I was here for maybe 3 days. And it was actually really good because rum runners used to come to this island and stash their stash, but they've been out of business because of like Norrington and his men. But they used to come after 3 days. They came. I drank so much rum. I had a great time on the beach. So I'm just going to chill here and see what happens. And Elizabeth is the one, again, kind of getting into like this character that knows everything. She sets a bunch of the trees on fire because she knows Norrington's looking for her because he wants to pork her tiny little butthole.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a smoke signal.
Giant smoke signal.
Yeah. And
they eventually get rescued by Norrington and the Navy. So now the Navy knows about the island, Isla de Muerta, and Jack just tells them, look, the only way you can get to this island is someone who knows how to get to the island, and they have to trust him. So they let him go up to the big old wheel, and he gets them there. He has this compass that doesn't work, but it works to get him where he has to go.
Mm-hmm.
And this is setting up essentially how the movie is going to end, with the Royal Navy showing up at Isla de Muerta. But the pirates know they're coming. And this forms, I think, another great scene is the pirates walking underwater and attacking the Interceptor. This whole ending bit reminds me a little bit of Star Wars, and I'm sure they borrowed, or not just Star Wars, but the Star Wars trilogy, where you have different things happening in different places.
Okay,
you have the big battle on the Interceptor with like Governor Swan and
you've got the battle with Boss Nass.
You've got Captain Barbossa versus Captain Jack Sparrow, giant sword fight. You've got Will Turner and Elizabeth Swan. Everybody's just kung fu fighting with swords. What do you think, Lloyd? We talk about this sometimes in the show. We're going back to 2003. This is the 20th anniversary, by the way, of this film.
Oh, right.
Do you like or dislike the ghost CGI?
I think it's pretty good. Yeah. I don't really have a problem with the ghost CGI and the skeletal cadavers per se. I like it when you find out what's going on and you realize, they're ghosts in the moonlight. Is that what it is?
Yeah, you could see their ghostly form in the moonlight. Yeah,
you see a couple of things explaining that. You see the monkey. I like the scene where she sees the monkey as a ghost, even though I'm pretty sure the monkey didn't spend any money, but
well, he's part of the crew.
Yeah, he's part of the crew.
He's part of the crew. And who knows, maybe he got a monkey hooker. Maybe 4 of those coins got him some monkey butt.
I like the scene where Jeffrey Rush is, drinking the wine.
Oh, it's rushing out of his,
He rushes through his ribs and everything. That's really cool. But I guess what I start at this point not liking is it goes on way too long. You got the Royal Navy now fighting the pirates, and they're undead, and they're not going to die. And so it's pointless, really, to fight them. And it's just, to me, I just wish the movie would have ended around this point, and they would have figured out a way to wrap it up before all the rest of everything that happens.
All right. So if you want to get to how it wraps up, Jack Sparrow knows that the reason that they're cursed is they stole the gold. They have all the gold back at this point. He steals a coin. He does a little bit of sleight of hand. He knows that will curse him, so that when he fights Barbossa, he's not going to die. Barbossa gets the upper hand on him, stabs him through the chest, and then we see him in the moonlight, and he's a ghost as well. Just as that's all tidying up and everything else is happening, we see it seems like Jack gets the upper hand on Barbossa, and he shoots him in the chest.
So before we move on,
yeah,
this is where I wanted to invoke my prior question.
Oh, okay. Well,
so he steals the coin, and now he's a ghost, pretty much.
Right, because he stole that gold.
Elizabeth had that coin for a long time. So she fucking turned to a ghost every night in the moonlight? That's one of the things that really bothers me about this. You shouldn't think about it much, but if he can use it to that effect, why did it never happen to her?
I wish I had a better answer, and I don't know.
Also, the boy. I guess the boy who had, earlier.
Well, Will Turner was given. Maybe it was because his dad gave it to him. I almost feel like they even might have said something in the movie
she
about
took
that.
it too, so she stole it more or less from him, just like Jack stole it.
I know what it was. It was their enduring eventual love that broke the curse.
Okay, I get
Their love broke the curse of the Aztec gold, which is not true. And you know what? As soon as I get off of line tonight, I'm going to Reddit this.
I'm sorry for bringing up something so obvious, but
no, I think if he did it, why did she not? You're absolutely right about that. All right, so he shoots Barbossa in the chest, and Barbossa says, you wasted your one bullet, on me, and Will off in the corner says he didn't waste it. And then we see Barbossa is clearly bleeding from his very human chest and dies. And the reason being is that Will has cut his hand and dropped the last piece of gold into the bucket, into the treasure chest with the golden toilet, which has ended the curse of the Black Pearl. And basically all of the, on the Interceptor, a lot of them start dropping dead. I don't know if they take some of them prisoner. We get back to port one more time, and Norrington is attempting to hang Jack Sparrow for crimes, being a pirate and the such. And we have a big rescue at the end where Will Turner, who throughout the course of the movie has realized that his heritage as being a pirate, has now kind of fully become a pirate, right?
He's embraced his arg.
By the way, this was not planned out. Today is September 21st, 2023, as we record. 2 days ago on September 19th, it was International Talk Like a Pirate Day.
Was it? Oh, man.
Completely fucking coincidental. So, yes. Jack Sparrow gets away. Will lets him go. Governor Weatherby Swan is like, says to his daughter, is like, you're gonna, do this with your life. He's a blacksmith, and she's like, no, he's a pirate. And Jack jumps into the water, and he gets rescued by the crew of the Black Pearl, who at this point we thought had abandoned him as they had been captured. And as I said about great endings, he gets on the boat, and, they kind of say, the con is yours, Captain. Basically says, like, get to work, you scallywag dogs. And then it's just this, I think, incredible ending shot of him at the wheel. And the first thing he says is, bring me the horizon. which I read Johnny Depp improvised that day.
Oh, really?
Fucking great line.
Sounds like it would be a good line in like a Star Trek, similar thing.
Star Trek 6, Kirk at the end says, it's Peter Pan, second star on the right, straight on till morning. Yeah. So it's very kind of similar to that. Bring me the horizon. And then in the beginning of the movie, young Elizabeth Swann is singing a song called Yo Ho Ho, A Pirate's Life for Me, which is the song that plays in the Disney World ride. When they're on the beach together, they're singing it together when they're drunk. And he recites a couple of the lines at the end. He pulls his compass out. He basically says a couple lines from it, and he shuts the compass shut, and the movie ends. And I think that's fucking just about perfect the way it goes. It's awesome. But is it awesome? Let's talk about the box office.
This country, you gotta make the money first.
All right, so this was out on July 9th, I think, of 2003. The week ending was July 13th, so it must have come out on a Wednesday. This is a long weekend. $140 million budget. It was originally $120 million. Michael Eisner was complaining about the budget, and Gore Verbinski said to him, "You're getting your lunch eaten by your competitors," meaning Star Wars and Lord of the Rings, because they'll go to 160. They'll go to 170. You're Disney. Give me a little bit more money and I'll make you a hit. Well, he made him a hit. I'll get to the totals in a second. That weekend, number 5, it had been out for 7 weeks, $8.5 million, Finding Nemo. Okay. Number 4, out for 2 weeks, $12 million, Legally Blonde 2. Number 3, way underrated movie. Out for 2 weeks, $19.5 million, Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines.
Okay.
Number 2, a very hated movie, something we could do for a Triple T at some point, a comic book adaptation that most people hate, and it caused Sean Connery to never act again. It opened that week. It made $23 million, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Okay.
Based on the Alan Moore book. And number 1, it opened against League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, $47 million, Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, $305 million domestic, $349 international, $654 million total. Total.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty freaking good.
Pretty freaking good. All right, Manster, let's rate this thing.
Now! What's it gonna be, Doc? Huh? What's it gonna be?
Should I go first? Because you seem not to like this, and if I let you go first, I'm afraid maybe in my favor, you're going to go higher than you should.
No, I've got a number, and I'm going to stick to it.
All right.
You want me to go first?
You go first, yeah.
I'll go first. I got a lot. Sometimes I try to keep it short, but I got a lot on this one. I'll try and pare it down. So, in my opinion, there's a pretty good, 90 to 100-minute movie trapped inside of this movie. This movie is like 2 hours and 15 minutes.
23
minutes. It's charming, but it outstays its welcome. There's plenty of entertaining swashbuckling action, but basically it succumbs to overkill. At first it's pretty good, and then it becomes unwatchable. See what I'm doing there? I'm saying the same thing over and over because that's what happens. The violent battle is fun. It's fun to see the sword fights like the one we were talking about earlier. I like it, and I do like the CGI, but I couldn't help but feel like there's really no stakes in the battles because of half of the people can't even die, and the other half are just Royal Navy. So who cares? Right. Jeffrey Rush and Johnny Depp, they really jack up the entertainment value. Their characters are wackos, but they're like conniving. They're pranksters. They're intelligent, and they really keep you engaged. I like it. Johnny Depp, like you said, he's totally channeling like a drunken drag queen. He's got the fantastic eyeliner and his hand gestures and the way he like peacocks around and slurs his language and just all his mannerisms. if he had just played that straight, like I think maybe just Disney wanted like a straight pirate character. If he would have played it like that, it would have sucked. I really think it would have sucked. You can't take that material seriously, right? But he took the character seriously, and he was consistent. That's what I think really makes that character work, and it's very authentic because he doesn't ever let up with the way he plays that character, and it never gets to a point where you know that he's making fun of it. He's serious the whole time being this character, and it's so good, and it totally made this film a hit, no doubt about it. Orlando Bloom, I think, is his straight counterpart. Pretty white bread, but he's more of the Errol Flynn type in this movie.
Yeah, he's
for those of you, I guess our age, probably know who Errol Flynn is. Keira Knightley, she is just not the seductive, lusty kind of character that I'm looking for a woman in a pirate movie that everyone's, well, they're not all fighting over her, but you know what I mean. Like he's going out of his way to try and risk his life for her, and she's just not that kind of character. I think what you were getting to is she's just very composed in these situations, but she's not. I don't get this sense of passion. But obviously, his movie's too long. That's my biggest problem with it. I just get too bored at the end, and I don't care about the ending. So I got to a certain point, I liked it, and then I didn't care anymore because I know it's a good movie because of the portrayals. I am going to rate this a 3 out of 5.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I know you thought I was probably going to go with a 2 or 1.5.
I knew prior that you weren't a fan of this because we had talked about this a long time ago, just personally. Right. And I had forgotten until before recording when you kind of alluded to me that, don't you remember I don't like this movie? All right, so I'll jump in there and I'm going to go, I guess, the opposite direction. Yeah. I remember going to see this in the theaters and there was no fanfare to it. It's a movie based on a Disney ride starring Johnny Depp, who at the time really hadn't had much going on. Nothing really big at that point. Orlando Bloom is a new kind of face from the Lord of the Rings films. Keira Knightley, also new, basically, I think Bend It Like Beckham might have been her biggest thing at that point. Pirate movies have been dead for a long time. Adventure movies have been hard to come by in a long time. And I remember when I went and saw this, I remember loving it. Like being so, it's a movie that I can remember clearly being so surprised at how good I thought it was. I've seen it since that time in the theaters 20 years ago, a couple times. I have not watched it in probably 10 or 12 years. So I tossed it in last night. Now, I will say something. It is long. For this type of movie, it is definitely long. And there are a lot of like I said before, like this person getting captured by this crew and blah, blah, blah. We kind of have like the same beats happening a lot, but I'm okay with it because it's a rousing fucking good time adventure. Johnny Depp. It's rollicking. It's rollicking. Johnny Depp, even though he's not necessarily the main character, he created a timeless character. Everybody knows Captain Jack Sparrow. Everybody knows Savvy. I couldn't think of the line, the final line from the song at the end, the last thing he says, and it just popped in my head. I couldn't think of it when I mentioned how great it was, drink up me hearties, yo ho, and then the movie just ends. It's fucking awesome. It's awesome. The action scenes, I think, are great. The siege on Port Royal, the naval battle is awesome. The ending, where you have all the different things going on, is really, really good. Jeffrey Rush should be talked about more for his portrayal of Barbossa. He's so good. And I just really love this movie. There's something about it that I can't go all the way. Like I can take it to the prom. I can bring it behind the bleachers in the gym and I can get its underwear.
No butthole sex.
I could get its underwear around its ankles. But like the most I'm going to be able to do is like maybe some finger music. For some reason, I can't go 5 on this movie, but I'm going 4.75.
Oh, wow.
Lloyd, I'm right there. My hand is right there.
You are.
Yeah. My other hand is like fumbling with my belt, but there's something telling me like, don't do this. Don't do it. I love this movie. I just can't go 5 on it. And part of it might be the length. It might, I don't think it's a 100-minute movie like you said, but I think maybe 10, 15 minutes trimmed a little bit. But the effects, I want to point that out as well. A lot of times when we watch movies from like 03 or 01 or whatever, we're like, oh, it's janky. This isn't janky. It's just 2003 good effects.
It's
right?
2003 good, right?
Right. So like when you look at it now, you're not like, oh, that's fucking terrible. You're just like, oh, that's not as good as it could be today, but it's pretty fucking good. So yeah, I give it a 4.75. I think this is a great time. We'll probably never get around to them. I haven't seen them in a long time, but I love the first three. And I could be wrong. I think this is the shortest of the first three because I know that the second and third are like one big movie, and I'm fairly certain they're longer. Each one of them is longer. I really enjoy this movie, so I'm going almost all the way.
Almost.
All right, so we got one more week in Depptember, everybody. Next week, we will be recording with our good friend Keith Larson, and we will be talking about another kind of unhinged Johnny Depp performance. What movie are we talking about next week?
We are talking Ed Wood next week, folks.
I'm super excited about Ed Wood.
I haven't seen Ed Wood in so long, I can barely remember it.
It's going to be a good time, I think. It's going to be a good time. Keith must be a mega fan because when we put the voting out and that had got voted in, he like messaged me and was like, can I do Ed Wood with you? And I said, fuck yes, of course, Keith. So we're going to have a good time.
What's the last thing we did with Keith? Star Wars?
No.
Star Trek? Not Star Wars.
We did Star Trek 5. And
Jaws 3.
Jaws 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jaws 3, where everybody in the movie just kind of like floats backwards into the shark's mouth. Oh, what a dumb fucking movie. Manster, where can everybody find us?
You can find us everywhere you get your podcasts. And if you would, if it allows you to give us a rating, we'd love a 5-star review. On Facebook and YouTube, it's The Pint, a pop culture podcast. Instagram and Threads, it's at The Pint Podcast. And to become a Patreon, a Pint Insider, go to www.patreon.com/The Pint.
We'd love to have you. $2.50 a month or $4 a month gets you a couple different things. Check it out. And I wanted to bring this up. If you've ever heard the mics from Forgotten Cinema on our show when they do Forgotten Takeover, their show ended back in April, but in October, they're doing Forgotten Horror 5. Every October, they would do a month-long horror run. Well, they've gotten back together. They're doing a kind of limited little series over there. They're talking about films like Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, American Werewolf in London, a couple others. Go check them out. So if you listen to their show and unsubscribe because they stopped, go back and resubscribe so you could check them out. If you never unsubscribed, check your feed because starting in the first week of October, they're coming back. And in All Horror October here, they'll be coming back on to do Blair Witch 2, Book of Shadows. So we'll be talking about that. So until next time.
Sequels, right?
Forgotten sequels, yes. Yes. Until next time, Lloyd, say the words.
See ya. Savvy.
Drink up, me hearties. Yo ho.
It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!